A woman chases not the man who needs her, but the one who needs nothing to feel complete. Be grounded, mysterious, and purpose-driven. Detach from validation. Value your presence and let silence speak confidence. When you master self-respect, attraction becomes effortless. She'll chase the peace she feels only with you. Emotional detachment is not about being cold, indifferent, or heartless. It is about having control over your emotions instead of being controlled by them. When a man becomes emotionally detached, he no longer seeks validation from a woman's attention, approval, or affection. He moves from needing her to appreciating her, from chasing her to attracting her. That shift in energy is powerful. It's magnetic. Because human psychology is wired to crave what it can't fully predict or possess. When a man is emotionally detached, his energy feels different. He's calm when others would react. He listens without trying to impress. He can walk away from conversations, relationships, or moments that don't align with his peace. This emotional stability creates curiosity in a woman's mind because it communicates power without words. Most people are emotionally reactive. They attach quickly. They overthink. They chase certainty. So when she meets someone who doesn't rush to please or seek reassurance, it confuses her, but in a way that fascinates her. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring correctly. You care from a place of abundance, not fear. You enjoy someone's presence, but you're not addicted to it. You give love, but you don't lose yourself in the process. You understand that connection should be a choice, not a need. When you master this mindset, you no longer send desperate signals of pursuit. Instead, you radiate self-assurance, and that self-assurance becomes the very reason she's drawn to you. Women are naturally drawn to men who embody emotional security. It makes them feel safe, seen, and challenged at the same time. Emotional detachment sends the message that you're in control of your life. You're not dependent on anyone to complete you. You're centered within yourself, and that emotional balance is what makes your presence addictive. It's not the words you say or the moves you make. It's the energy of knowing you can walk away at any time without fear. In relationships, the one who's less emotionally attached often has more influence, not because of manipulation, but because of strength. Detachment keeps you from losing yourself in another person's emotions. It keeps your standards high and your boundaries firm. It protects your peace while allowing love to flow naturally. The irony is that the moment you stop chasing someone, they start noticing your absence more deeply. Your silence becomes louder than your pursuit, and your distance becomes the mirror that reflects their desire. Emotional detachment is freedom. It allows you to love without losing power, to give without expecting, to connect without clinging. It's not a tactic, it's a transformation. It's the difference between wanting attention and commanding it effortlessly. When you master emotional detachment, you stop trying to be chosen. Instead, you become the choice. And that's where real attraction begins. Scarcity amplifies value because the human mind is wired to desire what feels rare, uncertain, or limited. When something or someone is always available, it loses its emotional thrill. The same psychology applies in relationships, especially when it comes to attraction. A man who constantly makes himself available, who responds instantly, who is always eager to please, unintentionally communicates that his time, energy, and presence are abundant and therefore ordinary. But when he becomes selective with his attention, when he chooses his presence wisely, it transforms his energy into something valuable, something worth chasing. Scarcity doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection to manipulate someone. It's about understanding your worth and not distributing your energy carelessly. When you treat your presence as a privilege, others begin to treat it that way too. The key is balance. You don't disappear to create distance. You simply prioritize your purpose and self-growth over constant availability. That natural focus on yourself creates emotional scarcity. She starts to feel that your time is precious, that your attention is earned, not assumed. And psychologically, people value what they have to earn more than what they're freely given. Women are emotional creatures, deeply attuned to energy shifts. When a man pulls away slightly, not from ego, but from focus, she feels the difference immediately. It triggers curiosity. She begins to question, why isn't he as accessible as before? What's holding his attention now? That curiosity becomes attraction, because in that uncertainty, her mind begins to fill in the blanks, and imagination is always more powerful than reality. The scarcity of your attention forces her to reflect on her own feelings, often realizing your importance only in your absence. Being scarce also demonstrates self-respect. It tells the world that your energy isn't up for casual consumption. You're not desperate for attention. You're driven by purpose. This calm sense of control changes how people perceive you. You no longer chase validation. You attract admiration. Even your silence gains power because it's not rooted in neglect, but in discipline. You're showing that you value yourself enough not to be everywhere, not to respond to everything, and not to overextend yourself emotionally. That kind of restraint is rare, and rarity is always valuable. In relationships, scarcity builds anticipation. When you don't give everything too soon, your time, emotions, or plans, it keeps the connection alive. It allows space for longing to grow, because attraction isn't built in constant contact. It's built in moments of reflection when she starts missing what she once took for granted. Scarcity creates that contrast. It reminds her that your presence is something special, not routine. True value isn't in chasing or proving. It's in knowing that what you offer is unique. When you operate from that mindset, you no longer feel the need to compete for attention. You let your absence speak for your worth. And that subtle yet powerful shift turns ordinary interest into deep emotional pursuit. Purpose is the ultimate attraction because it gives a man direction, depth, and emotional gravity. When a man knows where he's going in life, his energy shifts. He no longer moves aimlessly from one distraction to another. Instead, every decision, every action, every moment is guided by something larger than himself. That kind of focus is magnetic. It's not just about ambition, it's about alignment. A man with purpose naturally commands respect because he isn't chasing people, attention, or validation. He's too busy chasing his mission, and that silent confidence is what draws others toward him. When a woman meets a man with a strong sense of purpose, she feels it before he even says it. It's in his tone, in his calmness, in how he carries himself. He doesn't need to impress because his life already speaks for him. His purpose becomes his aura. It gives his words weight and his actions meaning. That's what makes him stand out in a world where most people are lost in temporary desires. Women are instinctively drawn to this kind of grounded energy because it signals stability and strength. It tells her that he's not looking for someone to complete him, but rather someone who aligns with his path. A man without purpose often becomes emotionally dependent. He looks for meaning in relationships because he lacks it within himself. This creates imbalance. The moment a woman senses that she is the center of his world, the attraction begins to fade. It's not because she doesn't appreciate affection. It's because she subconsciously craves craves a man who can lead, inspire, and stay true to himself regardless of circumstances. Purpose provides that emotional backbone. It keeps a man stable when life gets chaotic and calm when things go wrong. That emotional consistency becomes irresistible because it represents safety and direction. Purpose also shapes how you respond to challenges. A man driven by something greater than himself doesn't react impulsively. He doesn't crumble under rejection or chase temporary highs. He views everything through the lens of growth and progress. That mindset separates him from the majority, and that separation is exactly what makes him attractive. When your focus is on your mission, you automatically project an energy of abundance. You're not needy because your life already feels full. You're not anxious about losing anyone because you're too committed to what you're building. That emotional independence is what makes people want to be part of your journey. Purpose brings clarity. It filters out distractions and aligns your relationships with your values. It transforms attraction from something shallow into something profound. When you live with purpose, your presence carries intention. You stop trying to prove your worth and start embodying it. And when a woman feels that strength, that steady, passionate drive, she doesn't just see a man to love, she sees a man to follow, to respect, and to chase. Confidence without arrogance is one of the most attractive qualities a man can embody. It's the quiet assurance that comes from knowing your worth without needing to prove it. It's strength without aggression, certainty without ego, and self-belief without superiority. True confidence doesn't scream. It speaks through presence, through calm energy, and through how a man carries himself even when no one is watching. Arrogance, on the other hand, is loud. It's a mask for insecurity, a performance meant to gain validation. The difference is subtle but powerful. Confidence draws people in, arrogance pushes them away. A confident man doesn't need to dominate conversations or show off achievements to feel significant. He doesn't feel threatened by others' success or beauty. He stands firm in who he is because his value isn't dependent on external approval. This grounded energy makes people feel safe around him. Women especially are drawn to that balance because it reflects maturity. It says, I don't need to prove my power, I simply know it. That kind of composure communicates emotional stability, the rare quality that distinguishes a man from a boy. Arrogance is built on insecurity. It's the constant need to be right, admired, or envied. It thrives on comparison and control. A man who acts superior often does so to hide his fear of being insignificant. That's why arrogant people tend to repel rather than attract. They drain energy instead of giving it. Confidence, however, is self-contained. It doesn't compete. It complements. A confident man lifts others without losing himself. He leads through example, not through dominance. His quiet assurance inspires rather than intimidates. The most powerful confidence is unspoken. It's in how you handle rejection without bitterness, how you remain calm when challenged, and how you stay kind even when you could choose pride. It's reflected in your consistency, in showing up when you say you will, and in honoring your word without needing praise. When a woman observes this, she sees strength wrapped in humility. She senses a man who is emotionally in control, a man she can trust and respect. Because women don't chase arrogance, they chase the emotional safety that real confidence provides. Confidence also means vulnerability, the courage to be authentic. A man who can admit his flaws, express emotions, or ask for help without shame shows that he's grounded in reality. That openness doesn't weaken attraction. It deepens it. It shows emotional intelligence, which is far more appealing than ego-driven perfection. Confidence without arrogance says, I know my worth, but I don't need to prove it by diminishing yours. That balance builds genuine connection instead of temporary admiration. In essence, confidence without arrogance is emotional mastery. It's the ability to stand tall without stepping on others, to lead without controlling, to shine without overshadowing. It's what makes a man magnetic, not because of what he says, but because of what he embodies: quiet power, humility, and the rare peace that comes from truly knowing himself. The emotional mirror effect is one of the most powerful psychological dynamics in attraction. It means that people subconsciously reflect the emotions they receive from others. When you chase someone with intensity, they feel your neediness and start to pull away. But when you step back and ground yourself in emotional calmness, that same energy begins to echo back. They start feeling the absence of your attention and begin chasing the peace they once felt in your presence. Human emotions are deeply reciprocal. What you project emotionally, you attract in return. When a man is emotionally centered, he no longer reacts to a woman's distance or mixed signals. Instead of overanalyzing her silence or chasing reassurance, he remains steady. That steadiness becomes a mirror for her own behavior. If she was distant, his calm detachment reflects it back, not as punishment, but as balance. And in that balance, she begins to notice the emptiness his presence once filled. The absence of emotional pursuit creates awareness, and that awareness ignites desire. A woman can resist words, but she cannot ignore energy. The emotional mirror effect teaches that energy doesn't lie. When you're desperate, no amount of confidence can cover it. When you're peaceful, no amount of silence can hide it. Your energy communicates louder than anything you say. When a man stops reacting emotionally to every shift in a woman's behavior, he starts controlling the tone of the connection. His stillness becomes magnetic. It triggers curiosity because most people are used to being chased, validated, or over-understood. When you stop doing all that, you create an emotional void, and that void becomes the space where attraction grows. This dynamic also reveals a deeper truth. People only value emotions that are not constantly available. When you're always emotionally expressive, you remove the mystery that keeps curiosity alive. But when you pull back slightly, not from fear, but from strength, you allow her emotions to mirror yours. She begins to reach out, to re-engage, to match your effort. This is not manipulation. It's emotional alignment. You're simply refusing to overgive where energy isn't being reciprocated. That's how real balance is created in attraction. Men who master the emotional mirror effect understand that silence and distance can communicate more powerfully than words. It's not about ignoring her. It's about allowing her to feel your emotional worth. When she realizes that your peace isn't something she can control, she becomes intrigued by it. She starts wondering what gives you that calm, that confidence, that self-contained power, and that curiosity transforms into pursuit. The emotional mirror effect ultimately shows that relationships are energetic exchanges. When you embody calmness, strength, and detachment, you naturally invite those same qualities from others. When you project chaos or desperation, you receive distance. The key is to control your emotional frequency because it determines what you attract. When your energy says, "I'm complete," it mirrors completeness back to you, and that is when the chase truly begins. Boundaries breed respect because they define how you allow others to treat you. Without boundaries, you send an unspoken message that anyone can take your time, energy, or emotions without accountability. But when you stand firm on your limits, you communicate self-respect, and that energy demands respect in return. People, consciously or not, test boundaries to see where your self-worth lies. The moment you tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional neglect, you teach them how far they can go. But when you calmly say no, when you walk away from behavior that dishonors your peace. You set a psychological standard. That standard separates those who value you from those who only use you. In relationships, boundaries are not walls. They are filters. They don't block connection, they protect it. A man without boundaries loses his individuality because he tries too hard to please, to be accepted, or to keep the peace. He says yes when he wants to say no. He forgives too quickly, gives too much, and ends up emotionally drained. That overgiving energy might feel like love, but it's actually fear, the fear of losing approval. True strength lies in being able to disappoint others to stay true to yourself. That's what creates emotional respect. Women are naturally drawn to men who hold boundaries with calm authority. It signals emotional maturity and self-control. When you enforce boundaries without anger or explanation, you show that your peace is non-negotiable. That kind of composure is rare. It tells her that you are not desperate for validation or intimacy. You are guided by principles. This balance of compassion and firmness creates an emotional polarity that makes you both trustworthy and intriguing. She feels safe knowing you won't tolerate disrespect, not just from her, but from anyone. That strength builds attraction far deeper than charm or words ever could. Setting boundaries also protects your emotional energy. You begin to invest in people who reciprocate effort instead of draining it. You stop chasing approval and start attracting alignment. When someone respects your boundaries, they prove that they value the relationship enough to meet your standards. And when they don't, their absence becomes a blessing, not a loss. Boundaries reveal who's meant to stay and who was only there for convenience. That awareness helps you build connections rooted in mutual respect instead of emotional dependency. Boundaries also teach you self-discipline. Every time you enforce one, you reinforce your worth to yourself. You remind your mind and emotions that peace is more important than temporary validation. You begin to live from a place of self-command rather than people-pleasing. That's where emotional power is born. The most respected people in life are not the ones who say yes to everything. They are the ones whose no carries weight. Boundaries make your time valuable, your energy sacred, and your presence meaningful. They don't push people away. They attract those who truly deserve a place in your life. Mystery awakens the feminine mind because curiosity is one of the deepest emotional triggers in attraction. When a woman feels like she can't completely figure a man out, her thoughts naturally circle back to him. Mystery creates emotional tension, the kind that keeps her wondering, imagining, and desiring. The human mind values what it cannot fully understand. Predictability kills attraction because it removes emotional excitement. But when a man reveals himself gradually, when he allows her to experience his depth piece by piece, he activates the part of her mind that thrives on discovery. Mystery isn't about manipulation or playing hard to get. It's about holding back just enough of yourself to let her imagination do the work. When you stop oversharing, over-explaining, or over-pursuing, you leave emotional space for her curiosity to grow. Women are intuitive. They sense emotional energy more than words. When she feels that you're calm, composed, and not in a rush to be known, it subtly challenges her. She begins to wonder what you're thinking, what drives you, what makes you so emotionally centered. That wonder becomes fascination. Mystery also comes from emotional control. When a man doesn't react to every situation, when he stays grounded instead of seeking approval, he stands out. Most people crave attention and validation, so when she meets someone who doesn't, it shifts her perception. His silence feels powerful. His restraint feels intentional. She starts asking herself, why doesn't he need to prove himself? Why does he feel so self-contained? Those unspoken questions create emotional depth because attraction isn't built through constant communication. It's built in the quiet moments when she's left thinking about you. A mysterious man doesn't reveal everything he feels right away. He lets his actions, tone, and energy communicate instead of words. He doesn't need to announce his value. It's sensed. He listens more than he talks. He observes more than he reacts. That calm curiosity gives her emotional room to open up. The feminine mind wants to explore. It wants to uncover layers, not be handed everything too soon. When you make yourself emotionally transparent too quickly, you remove that exploration. But when you keep a part of yourself private, not hidden, but sacred, you make her feel like she has to earn access to your world. That journey becomes addictive. Mystery also preserves attraction over time. When you have your own goals, interests, and inner world beyond the relationship, she feels that you're not dependent on her attention. That independence keeps her emotionally engaged. She knows you're there, but she never feels like she completely possesses you. That's the balance that keeps desire alive. In the end, mystery is not about pretending. It's about presence without exposure. It's about living with depth, confidence, and quiet strength. When a woman senses that there's more to you than what she sees, she doesn't just want to know you, she wants to experience you. And that curiosity becomes the foundation of lasting attraction. Consistency over games is what truly sustains attraction because emotional security will always outlast temporary excitement. Games create confusion, but consistency creates trust, and trust is what allows attraction to deepen over time. Many people believe playing hard to get or creating unnecessary emotional distance keeps someone interested, but in reality, it often triggers anxiety, not desire. Real attraction doesn't need manipulation. It needs stability. When a man shows up with reliability, emotional balance, and honesty, he becomes the rare presence a woman can depend on in a world full of uncertainty. Consistency doesn't mean being predictable or boring. It means being emotionally stable. It's about aligning your words with your actions, staying true to what you say, and showing up even when it's inconvenient. A man who is consistent becomes emotionally safe. A woman can relax around him because she doesn't have to question his intentions or decode mixed signals. That sense of emotional safety is one of the most powerful forms of attraction because it allows her to express her feminine energy fully without fear of being played or manipulated. Games, on the other hand, come from insecurity. They are built on fear, the fear of losing control, of being too available, of being vulnerable. When a man plays games, he hides behind tactics instead of authenticity. He tries to provoke emotions through silence or inconsistency, thinking that will keep her hooked. It may work for a moment, but it eventually breeds resentment. A woman might chase temporarily, but deep down she stops respecting what feels emotionally unstable. What truly keeps her drawn in is when she feels seen, valued, and emotionally grounded in your presence. Consistency also shows emotional maturity. It reflects that you know who you are and what you want. You're not operating from impulse or ego. You're guided by clarity and purpose. You don't change your tone based on her mood, and you don't need games to feel in control. You understand that real power comes from emotional composure. That steadiness creates attraction on a deeper level because it offers something rare, peace. And peace, once felt, becomes something she can't let go of easily. Being consistent also builds credibility. Every time you follow through on your word, you build emotional respect. Every time you show discipline in communication, you strengthen connection. And when you stay consistent in your boundaries, your energy becomes trustworthy. She learns that you mean what you say and that you don't let emotions dictate your behavior. That reliability is what transforms interest into admiration. In the end, consistency is not about perfection. It's about alignment. It's about showing that your intentions are real and your actions are steady. It's choosing clarity over confusion, honesty over manipulation, and peace over ego. When a man masters consistency, he doesn't need games to keep a woman's attention. His presence itself becomes the game she never wants to stop playing, because it gives her something no tactic ever could: emotional certainty. Attraction is not built on tricks, appearances, or temporary emotions. It's built on psychological and emotional strength. When a man learns to master himself, everything else follows naturally. Emotional detachment gives him power, scarcity amplifies his worth, and purpose anchors his presence. Confidence without arrogance earns quiet respect, while emotional balance through the mirror effect draws others in effortlessly. Boundaries protect his peace, mystery keeps desire alive, and consistency turns fleeting interest into lasting admiration. A man who lives by these principles doesn't need to chase love. Love is drawn to him. He becomes the calm in a chaotic world, the steady presence every woman craves but few ever find. His energy speaks louder than his words. His silence carries strength, and his self-respect creates gravity. When you embody emotional maturity, focus, and discipline, attraction stops being something you seek. It becomes something you radiate. And that is the ultimate power, to be so grounded in who you are that the right woman feels safe enough to chase the peace she only finds in you.